And then, so with the inception, of the new collective bargaining agreement in 2011, the player procurement in international and domestic avenues were drastically changed. So internationally, teams are given a pull in reverse order of the standings with soft caps and restrictions based on how much you spend and restrictions based on 5, 10, 15% over your budget. And a lot of teams will go over those soft caps. Like the Rays, Cubs, and Yankees will go over by 15% or more. A lot more than that usually, obviously. And they'll incur penalties that include not being able to sign players over $300,000 for the next 2 signing periods. Within the draft, there's a similar setup where if you go over by 15%, you lose your ability to draft in the first round in the following 2 years. They take away the top pick each of those 2 receiving drafts. And in the draft, no one has ever blown past their budget. And that's always been weird to me since the inception of this agreement, because I always thought that the penalties internationally were much harsher than they were domestically with the draft. So take a look at what would happen if a team did this and kind of what it would look like. So a couple of quick assumptions I had within the study was that the Baseball America top 500 pre-draft rankings were equivalent proxy for talent, and that the competitive window that a team would be in would be at least through the following season, which would allow for them to not lose a pick that would be in the top 15 overall draft, in the draft, because after that 15th or so pick, there's a huge drop off in talent, meaning that the elite talents are always available in that first 15 picks. Within those picks that you'd be losing, I applied 10% more discount just for the theory that you would rather have a player now than later in your system, so the sense that a player today is worth more than a player 2 years from now. And then the idea of insuring against your own strategy, I did this with a normal draft strategy until the completion of round 10 as a way to insure against players not dropping that you were hoping. So here I have a list of players to take from the 2015 draft, which was the frame that I worked on this past offseason. On the y-axis, you can see the players with their Baseball America ranking in parentheses, and then on the x-axis would be the expected WAR, which is based on Matthew Murphy's work at the Hardball Times in 2014. So this is a comparison of the value gained. WAR just as a comparison to the 2 picks that you would be surrendering in the following 2 drafts. And this is based on a pick in the 21 to 25 range, which we talked about being in a competitive window, with a 10% discount applied to each, comparative to the players that you'd be gaining as a direct result of going over your budget. So the WAR discount is based on Matt Swartz's work with the Hardball Times, and you'd be gaining roughly 2.5 times the value just in WAR alone. So there are significant benefits and drawbacks as with any strategy, and I think the biggest benefit that this would offer is actually directly tied to the trade Turner rule. You can now, instead of having to wait an entire year from the draft and your signing date of a player, you can now trade them that following offseason. So we recently saw an example of that with the Arizona Diamondbacks turning Dan B. Swanson, a recently acquired asset, into a cost-controlled major league starter. So that opens up a lot of options and strategy for short-term and long-term major league strategy. As a lot of players, as you see, prospects are huge currencies in the market. Another good example, even though he wasn't acquired through the draft, you saw the Red Sox turn an 18-year-old prospect and Anderson Espinosa into 2.5 years of a cost-controlled left-handed starter. So all of these young players, even though they're at below A minors or even below, they hold a lot of value within the trade market. Also, there'd be a huge reduced opportunity cost in signing qualifying offer free agents who represent the top tier of all free agency. You, instead of giving up a first-round pick, which you commonly do for signing one of those players, you give up a second-round pick, which a lot of teams would value that at around a $12 million charge by giving up that pick. It gives you much more flexibility to beat out the competition and how much you can give up for that player. The the obvious drawback to this is that in international, you can sign who you want. Basically, if you like the player, you offer the most money, and usually if you're first offer, they'll sign with you. In the draft, you can't control who falls. That's the big kind of drawback, that you're banking on guys that you were hoping to get fall into you, and that obviously is out of your control. So that's the big issue with it. Another, which kind of goes into the psychology of signing players, even if a guy's there in the 15th round, offering him top 50 money doesn't mean he's a top 50 pick. And a lot of players, just like everyone that's at that level, they want to be a first round draft pick. And once they realize that they aren't going to be that first rounder, that top 50 guy, then they commit to the idea that they're going to school and they can boost their stock and come back that 3 years later and answer the draft. So that's one side of the psychology of how the drafting kind of work. And then there would also be an impact on the current collective bargaining agreement, with causing some issues with the negotiations, because there would be a different issue within than there was before. So, bringing it together, I kind of think, assuming the financial capabilities and the ability to be in that competitive window that we talked about earlier, I think the long-term effects of having an immediate injection of talent into your system and being able to have huge flexibility with your major league strategy as soon as that trading deadline, once you know what players will be in your system. And then that's following off-season with how many players that you have available to trade that you usually won't have. I think it would definitely be worth it, assuming things that teams know that I don't are a huge impact. So that kind of brings it together. Thanks to Sam and Adam for helping me out with a lot of that. Both Matt Swartz, Matt Murphy, they did a lot of great work with our bulletins, and to Meredith for helping me out with the presentation.
All right, so with our next